nearly as impressive as you'd think. He emailed me. Mikhail asks, "Hi Matt, hi Dave. Nice to hear from you again. Dave's Cerebus has been translated into several languages." Yes, iSociety was translated into Italian, Spanish, and French. Did the editors and translators communicate with you as I usually do? And no, definitely not. And were there any other interesting stories related to the translated editions? No, and for the same reason, because that was those were not so much negotiated at the publisher level as implemented at the publisher level. These were all three of them were publishers that were already doing translations of English comics, English language comics, and had expressed interest. We would like to do Cerebus, and we want to start with iSociety. And they arranged the translation. They arranged to do a font of my lettering style, so that everything could just be typed in. And basically, I got a check, and then somewhere down the road, when they actually printed the books, then I got, I think, 10 copies of each book and another check. And then all three of them went out of business. And pretty much all at the same time. So that was one of those, I hope that wasn't my doing, but probably was. I'll take the blame for everything back to the Suez Crisis. Before that, I wasn't born. So in terms of interesting stories, this was a little closer to what I always pictured doing translations, where you, Mikhail, were already doing a translation of Cerebus, at least like a few pages, and just said, I'm doing this, and kind of, is this okay? And it's like, yeah, that's fine. Keep going, and we'll see what happens. Particularly, online translations definitely weren't the viable means of reading a comic in a foreign language 10 years ago that they are now. So this seems to have a lot of potential to me. I'm hoping that X number of people in other countries and translators in other languages are looking at what Mikhail is doing and going, how did this happen? And looking at how it happened and going, can I do that? And it's like, I don't know, can you? Which is always the question. It's not really a may I. If you think that you're someone who has always been destined to be the person to translate Cerebus into Hebrew, let's say, then by all means, go ahead and do it. The only permutation on that hasn't happened yet, that I don't know if this would just be pouring sugar in the gas tank of the whole thing, is the idea of consulting and debating translations, where instead of the situation that we've got now with Mikhail's just, pedal to the metal, translate week and post it, and then translate another issue and post it. Someone doing that in a workshop fashion, saying, I'm a translator in this language, and I'm translating Cerebus number 1, and here's my Cerebus number 1, and get a pool of translators to read it in the environment that they're in, and debate anything that needs debating. I'm sure there's parts of Cerebus number 1 in any given language that are very easy to translate. I mean, this is just how you would say this. And there are probably others where you would say, no, I would, instead of this word or the word that Dave's using here, I would use this word instead. And probably there isn't an objective reality about that, but it would depend on how persuasive anybody could be about the respective subjective realities on that. Like I say, I can picture that being sugar in the gas tank. The idea is we want to translate Cerebus into Hebrew, and we've just got this big ongoing turf war between these Hebrew translators and these Hebrew translators, and nobody can agree on what these 10 words in Cerebus number 1 are supposed to be translated as, and the whole thing is completely ground to a halt. Ideally, you would hope that there would be give on that, and they would say, okay, we're going to talk about this for a little while, and then at the very worst, at the very least, at the end of the day, we'll just flip a coin and say, okay, you call it in the air, it's heads. We'll go with your translation and not my translation. To me, that would help avoid the people who think that they're better translators than they actually are, and can only be found out by other translators who say, no, you managed to get Dave Sim to agree to make you the official Hebrew translator, but actually your translations suck. And I'm trying to find a way not to say that they suck, but they suck. Here's a Hebrew translation that doesn't suck. And if you post both of them online, and the majority of people go, no, the second guy's right. Your translation sucks. His doesn't. You can help him instead of him helping you. So that's as far as I've gotten mentally on what's the best way to deal with translations. But definitely one of the things that I want to see happen with the Russian edition is, because it started with Mikhail, it's Mikhail's. It's not a matter of if Alpaca decides that they can't get along with Mikhail anymore and they want to just fire Mikhail and they'll get somebody else to translate the rest of Cerebus. I wouldn't do that. I would tend to side with the translator. Dance with the one what brung you. And that's something that didn't enter into it with the translators in the other 3 languages, where I had absolutely no contact with them, and translators could have been fired and replaced by somebody else, and I wouldn't even have known, because my agreement was just with the company. So live and learn as we go along.
So Miguel just found in 2018, David Birdsong sent me the first 2 or 3 pages of Cerebus number 1 translated into Russian that he found on a Russian torrent site. And pretty much said, I found these looking around, they're kind of neat, but the site they're on is real sketchy and there might be viruses and stuff, so don't send people there. And I shared them, and Miguel found this and went, I'm the one that translated that back in 2013. And when David found him and sent him to us, sent him to me, he also sent it to Sean and Hobbs, and Sean looked at the metadata, because it's the internet, and went, this is based on the Italian translation. Like, the art files are saved in Italian.
Huh.
So it's just one big circle.
Comic art metaphysics in action. The birth of a Cerebus star system. And here's what it looks like in real time. And you people have nothing better to do with your time? I'm sorry,
well,
Your Honor, I withdraw that remark.
To be fair, it's Sean Robinson. When you send him a digital file of foreign Cerebus, he's immediately going to try to figure out where that art came from.
Right.
Because maybe somebody got a copy of the negatives and put them on maybe the original negatives got put on a boat that went to Japan and slowly made their way across Asia, and he can get a hold of them to see what they actually look like.
Probably the real story is even more interesting than that. Okay. It must be please hold, because Michael R. of the